Thanks everyone for joining us for Paving the Way, entry-level careers in public interest tech. I'm super excited about the panelists joining me today. I'm going to encourage everyone to keep introducing yourself in the chat if you haven't already. Without further ado, I'm Ariana Soto. I am the Deputy Director at Coding It Forward. If you're not familiar with Coding It Forward, we are a nonprofit for young people by young people. We create opportunities and pathways into social impact tech, civic tech, public interest tech for young people like all of you joining us today. Our two main programs that we run, if you're not familiar, are the Civic Digital Fellowship and the Civic Innovation Corps. Both of those programs are 10-week internships for undergraduate, graduate, bootcamp, and certificate grads to serve for 10 weeks in the federal, state, and local government. And our interns work on a variety of different projects across software engineering, design, product management, and data science. The three panelists here with me today are some fantastic individuals who have been a part of Coding It Forward's programs in previous years. And I will let them take it away. We're going to be discussing their journeys into public interest tech, where they started, how they got there, what they're currently doing, and we'll be sure to save some time at the end for Q&A. So if you have any questions at all as we go along, please use the Q&A feature, and we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can in this session. But I'm going to stop doing all the talking. I'm just here to moderate and ask our fantastic panelists some questions. I'm going to kick it over to Flora to introduce herself, and then we'll take it from there. So thank you for being with us. This is wonderful.
Hi, everyone. Nice being here with all of you. I'm Flora. I use she, her pronouns. I went to Stanford for my undergrad, also did a master's program there, and I'm currently a data scientist at Hanger, which is a civic tech venture capital. Should I pass it over to Eric? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everyone, happy to be here. My name's Eric. I use he, him pronouns. I went to school at UC San Diego, and I'm currently a user researcher at Skylight, which is a civic tech consultancy. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Joey.
Hey everyone, great to be here. Joey Headley, he, him pronouns. I recently graduated from Williams College with a degree in physics. After my Civic Innovation Core internship, I got a job with the city of Boston as a data analyst.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to kick it off with our first question. Very simply, would love if each of you could tell our audience about your own journey into public interest technology, where you started, how you learned about it, and obviously how it brought you to where you currently are now. I will go in reverse order. So Joey, I'm going to kick it over to you, and then we'll go backwards.
Yeah. So I personally feel that my journey was somewhat skewed in the sense that I started off as a physics major, as I previously stated, but I realized that physics really wasn't for me. I preferred more of the applicable portions of physics, specifically the data parts. So I transitioned into looking into more data science related things. Specifically, I got an internship in my senior year during the winter with an organization called Giving Map. And it basically served as the stepping stone for me to get into data science, because it allowed me to apply a lot of the things that I knew were part of data science, but never got the chance to use, learning about Python, using SQL, those sort of things. And essentially that internship revolved around using data, county by county data, county by county data of COVID records between January of 2020 up until, January of 2019 up until November of 2020. This was specifically looking at the economic impact that COVID had, looking at the unemployment rate from January 2019 up until November 2020 to see how the pandemic sort of influenced unemployment. And one of the major things that we see is that at the height of the pandemic in March 2020/April 2020, that was when you saw the most spike in unemployment rates. And that was part of the project that I did. And I thought that served as a perfect stepping stone, because I got to use that to show that I had experience in working in data science, which allowed me to have my Civic Innovation Corps internship, which was a very rewarding experience to say the least.
So my journey, sorry about that. My journey into public interest tech started when I joined an organization called Design for America on my campus. So that was an organization that introduced me to the concept of using my skills in design and technology for public good. And it was actually through Design for America that I learned about coding it forward. They were doing some outreach to some school organizations, and I learned about the Civic Digital Fellowship. And I applied in 2019, and I was really fortunate to be selected as one of the fellows in 2019, getting to work at the General Services Administration, specifically with ATNAP, which is like a tech consultancy within the government. And through the fellowship, I was able to meet a lot of really cool people within the public interest technology community, some of which I still work with today. And
hi everyone. I think in college I was really interested in data and social problems, and I didn't know like that this was a field really, or like how to combine those two. So kind of just like pursue different things. I worked at an NGO called the Anti-Eviction Mapping Project in San Francisco, and they do a lot of like data analysis and visualization around just like housing and gentrification, that sort of stuff. And I was also in doing like different social science research and like using data and, you know, and that sort of stuff in that realm. And then I found out about coding it forward and the Civic Digital Fellowship. And I did that same year as Eric in 2019. I was at the Census Bureau, and that's kind of, you know, like it all like kind of led to that, but that was really like a launching point to like my career in public interest technology and kind of like how I got this job today at Hanger. So yeah, that's just a little bit about my journey.
Yeah, Flora, I'm gonna stick with you. You and Eric both brought up your experience with the Civic Digital Fellowship and how that kind of served as a bit of a launching point. I would love to hear if you could just tell the audience a little bit more about that experience, what it was like working at Census, and maybe what the most rewarding part of that work was. And then Eric, I'll probably go to you, and we're gonna ask you what the biggest challenge of that work was. But Flora, take it away.
Yeah, I would say that the most rewarding part of that experience was the people. It's a little cliche, but like really like the people in the fellowship and like at the Census Bureau really care about the work that they're doing and like making a social impact. So just being around, like surrounded by like really smart, talented, motivated people was super rewarding. And just, you know, doing like I guess like specifically in federal government, the things you do, since it's such a big like entity, like things you do make small amounts of impact because it's just like such a big organization, but like the things that you do like do make a difference in the way that the kind of the country work and like function and stuff like that. So being able to do that together with the other people there was really rewarding.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the project that you were working on at Census?
Yeah, I was in the economic reimbursable surveys division, and we were, they do this survey that they send out to warehouses to figure out, you know, how it is like a survey that was, I don't know what to call it, expensed by the Department of Transportation. They're trying to figure out different like routes and stuff, and they wanted to reduce the mistakes that they were sending these surveys to downtown Manhattan instead of like their warehouse of a company. So we did a lot of like analysis to figure out like geospatial analysis and like, you know, some complicated neural network stuff too thrown in there to figure out like what is the likelihood of this being a correct warehouse and like a place that I should send a survey to. So just like that whole project would, you know, save the government money and time, because they were doing a lot of that stuff manually and like fixing mistakes and stuff afterward. So what
Yeah,
we do.
I will ask you one more question and then I'll pass it over to Eric. But interested to hear if you were at all surprised by any aspect of the work that you got to do at Census that summer. Like, what were your expectations coming in, knowing that you were going to be working as a federal intern? And then maybe what was your impression once your 10 weeks at Census had ended?
Yeah, I think because it's such a short period of time, but we got a lot done. And I think that's the case with a lot of the fellows and stuff. But I think like it was nice that they like had scoped a project for us that was doable, and like my project was a continuation of a project from the previous year too, and like being and like and they're like continuing it on. It's like not something that is for the summer and they don't really implement it and it's done, but it's something that is continued. And like I was really surprised by like how much the census employees valued our work and like us being there, and we're like grateful for us for being there, and that was just like a super nice environment to work in. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Eric, I'm going to kick it over to you. Would love to hear a little bit more about your experience, and then maybe what was a challenging piece of working in that government tech space.
Yeah, so I had a great experience in the Civic Digital Fellowship. As I mentioned before, I got to work with 18F and specifically their strategy team. So they do a lot of early scoping for tech projects for different government agencies. And so I got to work on two 10X projects, which is a program within the government for federal employees to submit ideas around how technology can make the government more efficient. And my role was to validate whether or not some of those ideas would make an impact if 18F was to work on it. So I got to work on one of the projects, specifically with the VA. Also, sorry if my audio is cutting in and out. Let me know if I need to repeat anything. I have some internet troubles right now. But I got to work on a project with the VA. I'm trying to see if there are non-traditional ways to verify someone's identity, especially if they don't have government issued identification, specifically because when people are applying to a lot of social safety net programs, they might not have that government issued ID, which is a crucial part of that process. I also got to work on a project that dealt with DevOps for privacy offices. I've been working with databases within the government. And then I got to work on a project with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, basically making it easier for students to understand their financial aid award letter. And so what was really challenging, especially because I worked on many different projects, was basically learning how to navigate working with different stakeholders. So the work that I did as a Civic Digital Fellow touched many different organizations and programs, and I really had to learn how to balance people's desires in order to deliver something that was actually to those programs and organizations.
No, definitely. And thank you, Flora and Eric, for sharing a little bit about that experience and your experience in public interest tech, specifically in the federal government. I'm going to go to Joey, who has some experience in local government, which is a little bit different. But Joey, would love if you could tell us a little bit more about how you fell into your full-time role and what kind of work you're going to be able to do with your role in Boston.
Yeah. So the job that I have now came literally from the internship that I was working on through the Civic Innovation Corps. Essentially, I was already working for the city of Boston in that internship. And in the process of working for them, I was lucky enough that the city of Boston is going through massive changes right now, and specifically not just with the mayoral race, but also a lot of people who are already working for the city were leaving. So there were 2 open data analyst positions and 1 data engineering position. And I was doing a data analyst internship. So I also applied to the position that I'm in now. Although I will say, because they informed me while I was there, a piece of advice, even if any of you get the chance to have an internship in a role that you really like, or a company that you're working for that you really think is something that would fit for you, don't wait to hear whether or not they have open positions. You should take it upon yourself, maybe within, I'd say, 3/4 of your internship, that way through, if not a half. Just reach out to the people that you know, like ask if there are any open positions or if they could consider you for any open positions, because that was what I was planning on doing before I found out that, oh, all these open positions were available. But yeah, so essentially through the internship with CIC, I was able to get this job because it basically felt like it streamlined the process for me, because one, I was already working with a lot of the people who would make the decision as to whether or not I'd get the job. They were able to see my abilities, my competencies, and get to know me as a person. So I felt that was a really good stepping stone, because it allowed them to see that I was a really good fit for the job that I wanted to apply for. And I felt that the job was a really good fit for what I wanted to see in what I was working. So honestly, if my piece of advice would be, if you're in an internship or internship setting or work setting that's limited, try and see if you can apply for a full-time role. Because oftentimes, if you really like what you're working on and it's a limited time role, you can't, if you feel like it's something that you could do for a long period of time, you should actively try to seek out those opportunities in the organization that you're already working for.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. And I think you set us off on our next question. I think all of us, and I'm sure many of the people listening in today, if you're an early career technologist, we all recognize that it can sometimes be challenging and a bit difficult to find that first entry level role. I think, Joey, you're a great example of using what you already had to really set yourself up with that first full-time opportunity. But I'd love to hear from Flora and then Eric. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a young person looking for an entry-level opportunity in public interest tech? And maybe you can draw from your own experience in finding your current full-time role.
I got my role through Rachel, who's the executive director at Coding It Forward. She has a lot of networks. People reached out to her for this position, and she told me about it. So I think one piece of advice is to, even if you don't have those kind of networks or know people who might know people, I would just cold email people, or go through your alumni network or friends of friends, and just set up some time to talk, and they can set you up with other people to talk, and that can grow pretty rapidly. I think people in this field are generally pretty friendly and are willing to talk about their work, especially because they care about their work. So people have even cold emailed me and on LinkedIn, cold messaged me on LinkedIn, and have talked to them about different things. So just don't be afraid to reach out to people there.
I will plus one before Eric jumps in. I have also found that in my work that the people in the public interest tech space really want to help, and they want people like all of you working in this space. So it can be really intimidating to cold LinkedIn message or email, but I have generally found also in my own reaching out that people tend to be pretty responsive and really excited to help people who are looking for that first time role. So you can definitely reach out to me if you're looking for ways to get in, but I would say anyone that you find on Twitter, anyone that you find in any avenue that you're learning about public interest tech, you can find their contact info, reach out, because they're probably more than willing to help you. So I will self-volunteer all the folks in the public interest tech space to be a resource to you. But I think we've all generally found that to be the case. So don't be afraid to ask questions, is usually my one piece of advice. But I will kick it over to Eric for his piece of advice.
Yeah, plus one to what everyone said. I think also the public interest tech community is a small one compared to other communities. So you're never too far away from reaching out and connecting with the person that you might want to connect with. Another piece of advice I would have to offer is to stay plugged into different job boards and newsletters. I think, for example, the Coding It Forward job drop is a really good resource. And even if you don't find, say, a perfect role that matches what you're looking for, you could find different organizations that are within this space, and from there be able to identify future opportunities that might match what you're looking for, as well as start to find folks who actually work at those organizations.
Yeah, that's great. I love the mention of newsletters and jobs board. Joey, Flora, I don't know if you have any other favorite resources that you've used to find different opportunities.
Not opportunities, but specifically, but just I guess a plug for anyone who's interested in data science. Specifically the website KD Nuggets. I found that like it gives a lot of really good insights and like advice into like either learning how to get into the data science space or just resources that you could use. And for I guess the pricier option and probably the more popular one, Medium slash towards data science. They usually publish a lot of good articles. Some of them are free, but a lot of them require like the 5 month subscription. But I think it's a really good resource.
The Tech Jobs for Good job board is also pretty good.
Perfect. We will try to link those in the chat as we go along as well. And give those all to you for a resource. Would love to hear what skill sets or abilities you think are helpful for young technologists to add to their tool belt if they're interested in pursuing a career in public interest tech. I will start with Eric, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so this isn't necessarily what might be considered like a hard skill and more so like a soft skill, but I think something that I found very valuable while working in this space is the ability to not only talk about what you do, but why you do it. For example, terms like human-centered design or agile software development can be really confusing or unknown to people who haven't heard those before within this space. So there's oftentimes like opportunities to not only show what those things are and like what you know, but also why you do it, and it's kind of an educational portion of your work. I think that helps to generate buy-in as well as trust with a lot of the folks that you work with in this space.
Flora, any thoughts on that front? Skill sets, abilities, things to add to a PIT tool belt?
Yeah, I think like, especially if you're in the job market and looking for a job, being able to talk about the like projects you've done and like why you did them, why you're interested in them, and also just like things that went wrong, things you tried. So that kind of goes along with the communication skill. Also just like a broader technical skill that I think people, you don't learn in school is being able to test your code. That kind of goes along for like any tech kind of job, but like being able to like document well and test your code is something that's really important in the job and like when you start working, and that's like not as emphasized in school. So it's like one thing.
Yeah, I'd imagine everyone here is not a complete novice to entry-level tech, but just in case for like the people who are, just knowing the tricks of your trade, like specifically knowing the stuff, like the tools and like the most popular software tools and all the things that your job would normally use or find popular. Like essentially like if you want to be a front-end developer or a back-end developer, knowing JavaScript is definitely something that's important. If you're more into like design, probably having some idea of what Figma is. In general use cases, just knowing Python. I'd say just having an idea as to like the landscape of what job you're looking for or what job you're trying to get into is the best thing that you could do just starting off, because it gives you a platform to like jump into learning the stuff that you need to learn, whether it be project based or whether you get an internship or a job that allows you to learn those things.
Yeah, I think those are all great. Appreciate you sharing those and sharing your own unique and different perspectives from kind of the side of public interest tech that you come from. I will note for everyone listening, we did drop some links in the chat. So some of the things that were mentioned are now there. And if you have any questions, we'll be answering those soon. So please drop them in the Q&A. No small questions. We're really excited to get to chat with you all and hear what you want to hear from our panelists. So please feel free to start dropping those in the chat. My next question, perhaps my final question for each of you, is what is something that you wish you would have known before stepping into the public interest tech space? If you could look back on yourself before you encountered the public interest tech space, what do you wish you would have known coming in? And we'll start with Eric.
Yeah, so something I wish I knew before entering the space is that there are opportunities that I was looking to do in the space, but they might have been underneath a different job title. For example, like IT specialist or something else that at first glance doesn't look like something that I would be interested in doing. But upon reading the job description and like talking to folks within that role, it is actually related to what I was looking to do. So there are opportunities out there that upon first glance wouldn't look like something that I do.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That sometimes and oftentimes, especially in government, roles are not titled in the way that you might traditionally encounter them at other opportunities. So I think that's a great place to utilize that kind of asking questions tip we were talking about earlier, is like reach out to someone who works there or reach out to someone who you think might have that government experience to really understand what that role might entail. Because you're right, sometimes it's under like an analyst or just a thing that doesn't match the common ways in which we title data scientist, software engineer. So I like that one. Flora, we'll kick it to you.
Yeah, I think one thing, especially since the public interest field and civic tech field is fairly new, going into like the Census Bureau and like at Hanger, I didn't realize like how much, there isn't like a ton of structure, and like they're also trying to figure things out. So they also look to me for my own opinions of like how to do things. So that's something I wish like I had done sooner, of like just trying out different things in my job and not just doing like what was given to me or what I was assigned to, but like really thinking beyond that, and thinking about like how this could be better, or that this could change. But I think like this is especially true in the public interest tech space, since like a lot of the organizations tend to be a little younger. Yeah, they really like value your opinion, even though you're young.
Yeah, I think I've learned that time and time again. All of us, our unique backgrounds and perspectives really have something to bring to the table. And I think the public interest tech space is one that is very open and welcome to that. And you really kind of growing and being a part of whatever is being built. Joey, your thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, this is going to sound a little bit bad, but one of the things I wish that I knew before starting was that you don't have to be a saint to get into public interest, because like if you're confident enough in what you want to do, or if you feel like you have the skills to do what you want to do, like that should be enough to carry you through it. Because in not really, like if you start off like say in like corporate or anything that's like not necessarily like public interest, like as long as you have the skills to work in public interest, you can do good from that. Because through working with those skills, like you'd be able to create, like do a project or any sort of like job or task that they assign to you will automatically have some sort of good going into it. It's not like you have to start off with any sort of like major like life goal to get into public interest tech. Like as long as you have the skills or the interest in doing what you want to do, then that should be enough to carry you. And that's something that I really learned from CIC.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thanks, Joey. Bringing what you got. And I think we've all learned there's not a one-way path into public interest tech. You can really come at it from so many different angles and backgrounds. And so just bringing what you have is enough. Oftentimes. Wonderful. Well, we have a lot of questions that have come in, so I want to make sure we save as much time as we can on that front. We'll plus one what was just dropped in the chat about the career fair tomorrow. A lot of fantastic orgs in this space who you can talk to and learn a little bit more about. I will answer Jenna's question in the Q&A about any other advice for finding orgs or people working in public interest tech. I'll let the panelists drop things in the chat just to save some time if you have any other good resources you want to share. And then I will add, Jenna, that myself and Coding It Forward's executive director will be holding 2 sessions tomorrow at the job fair. And we're actually planning on giving everyone a long laundry list of the resources that we suggest for people looking to enter this space. So if you are interested, join us there tomorrow. And we will give you a long list of Coding It Forward's how to navigate public interest tech. I answered that one live. Let's see. Let's go to Jesse. I'm a career changer. So my formal education / degree degrees are not in tech. Am I still eligible for these opportunities with a certificate from a non-accredited bootcamp? I will answer that one quickly. Coding It Forward Civic Innovation Corps is open to bootcamp certificate grads. I would say other opportunities in the public interest tech space are the same. So there are definitely opportunities out there for you. You definitely don't need a formal education or degree. I think, as Joey just perfectly said, you don't need to check all the boxes. There are opportunities for people who have unique pathways and ways into the space. Let's see. If one of you can answer this, what we'll do is just hop in if you think you have a good answer for the question, and that'll make us go a little bit quicker. From Samira, what are the main differences between working in a government role and working in the private sector? Any surprises? I can't remember if any of you have specifically private sector experience, but if you do, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't worked at like a big tech company, but Hanger is technically a private for-profit company. And I would say that the government, like it moves a lot faster than the government in a lot of ways. And there's like less bureaucracy of like things to get through. So that's like kind of a big one. And in like the private sector space, there's a little bit more flexibility about like what you can do and like things you can try, and being able to like even like have time to learn new things or do different projects and stuff like that.
Great. From Kai, in consulting or in a government position where you move from project to project, do you ever encounter projects that don't align with your values? If so, how do you approach these projects?
I can answer this one. I think really depends on the organization that you're a part of. So a lot of organizations within this space are very clear about what types of projects they take on and like how those projects align with the organization's values. And I guess my advice there would be to like try to find an opportunity within one of those organizations that aligns with your values. But if you are given the opportunity to work on something that doesn't really align with your values, I think that comes down to like a conversation between, for example, you and your manager or whoever is placing you on this project. And typically, if you voice like why you don't want to work on that project, I found in my experience that people are more or less willing to accommodate that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eric. From Robin, thanks for the excellent inputs. I was curious about roles in the periphery, product management, project management, policy, not technologist, software engineer, data scientist, etc. What are the key requirements, skill sets, and ways to enter this space, including internships, fellowships, etc.? Thank you. I'm happy to give my 2 cents on this, but I'll let someone else take it first. I can hop in. Yes, I think Joey, Eric, Flora all come from kind of a technical background, but I would say those are not the only opportunities in this space. Coding It Forward's own programs recruit product managers and also designers, so not necessarily software engineers or data scientists. And I would say that holds true across the space. So definitely a tons of policy opportunities. If you're interested in working for Congress, our good friends at Tech Congress have some really cool opportunities to do work on that side of things. But those opportunities are out there. So I would say all the job boards and resources and newsletters that we've been talking about will likely also have roles in that space as well, Robin. So definitely not just engineering and data scientist. If you come from a different background, there are opportunities for you there as well. So thanks for that question. I think that was a good flag for us in terms of what we've been talking about today. Love this question from Felipe. What are your long-term goals? I don't know if we have time for everyone to answer this. Actually, I think we do. Let's go quickly around with everyone. What are your long-term goals if you have them? I know that's kind of a big question, but might be helpful for people to kind of get a sense of what you're thinking now, since you're working in the pit space currently full-time.
I can go. I am hoping to like long term be in nonprofit space doing like data or research work, or some sort of like doing like policy or nonprofit work in with like data skills. That's kind of broad, but yeah.
I can go next. I think long term, I'd love to stay in the public interest technology space or the nonprofit space. But in a product management role, I was a product management fellow at CDF, but I'm currently a user researcher. And so I've been kind of torn between the two kind of career paths there, but I think I want to transition back into product management.
Yeah, really quick, 10-year plan. Work for a bit, maybe 1 or 2 years, get a master's in data science, and specifically after that, like try and work for public interest tech internationally, because I have a really, I'm really interested in French and Japanese, so I'd probably want to like try and see if I could live in France and Japan within the next 10 years, and then see where I go from there.
Very cool. I'm very impressed. I don't know if I have my 10-year plan lined out like all three of you, but that is wonderful. For anyone else who is listening who does not have a sense of where they're going, I'm here to tell you that's okay. But I think in this space, and I would say like I also hope to continue to work in the public interest tech space. I think once you kind of fall here, it's really exciting and really fulfilling. And so I think that's why the sentiment among the three of you is kind of to continue working in some sort of area like that. But thank you for that. That's super helpful for people to get a sense. We have a few minutes left, so I'm going to try to speed round some more questions. Do you find that the government positions are less technical, use more dated techniques than the private civic consulting firms? How do you navigate the decision to pursue one or the other?
Not that I have much experience in private civic consulting firms, but I would say that it's probably the case because like just hearing about like different like software slash like frameworks that are being built in like specific companies like Facebook building React. I think Spotify has Luigi for Python. Like a lot of the private tech interests align with making specific frameworks and like technologies that are useful for them internally, and then after completing it they make it open source so that the open source tech community can play around with and bring different like software updates slash like improvements to those frameworks. But I haven't really heard anything like that from like the public interest tech space. Yeah,
I will say that though, a lot of like top notch technologists go into public interest tech in some way. Like I know like my at my company, a lot of people previously worked in federal government, and like my previous manager was like one of the founders of Django, and he worked at AT&F. So there is like talent out there, but I think it's you probably have to like find the right spaces for that.
Thank you for those answers. So we're just about time. I want to make sure that we wrap up on time. Sasha, I know we didn't get to answer your question, but feel free to message me, find me on Twitter. I'm happy to continue the conversation with you. But thank you everyone for joining us and for having such fantastic questions for our panelists. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your perspective and your journeys. I know I've always found it super helpful just to hear how other people have made their way into the space. It's really helped me to frame my own journey through the space. For anyone interested in Coding It Forward's programs, our website is codingitforward.com. All of our social media handles are at Coding It Forward. If you're looking at other ways to like low touch find out about civic tech, look at who we're following on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. That's one of the ways that I've found is really an easy way to learn more about what's happening in the space. Public interest tech folks love to tweet about their work, so it's a great way to do some easy learning. Applications for both of our programs will be opening the first Monday in January. I think that's the first time we've publicly announced that. So congrats on being the first to hear that. But thank you, Joey, Flora, Eric, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone in the audience. Feel free to find me on Twitter. Be sure to save those links that we dropped in the chat. Join us at the career fair tomorrow to learn a little bit more about our work. And thank you for being interested in public interest tech. We need more of you here. So it was incredible to see how many people were in this webinar today. So thank you again and have a great rest of your day. Hope you're checking out some more awesome events. Take care, everyone.